Hello, this is Christine with Where's Watson? And this is another one of our installments in the series, What Are Leaders Reading? So I'm very pleased to be here today with Kerry Macdonald, the Director of Library Services and Academic Support Services. And Kerry's going to talk to us about what she's reading this time. And of course, always very interested to know what our Director of Libraries is reading. So why don't you introduce the book?
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Christine. It's a lot of fun. I am not quite done, but I am reading a book called Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg. And I think it's a great book for this time of year because even if you're not a New Year's resolution setter or a goal setter for January necessarily, it's good at the start of the year, I think, to kind of set your intention and think about your habits and how you want to live through the next year.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to keep going?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so B.J. Fogg has this model, and he believes that when we start tiny, which is really important for me because I tend to be an all or nothing thinker, which I think many of us can be, and then inevitably when we try to start something, a change really, really big, we don't always succeed, right? So this idea of starting small, making small changes that you can easily adapt, and then get more motivated because they're going well, and then grow from.
So, tell me a little bit for the motivation. So you talked about kind of start of the new year. Was that your motivation for picking up the book, or was there other things that you were trying to address?
Well, I'm always thinking about how I might be able to do things differently or things I might want to implement. I find I get a little bored if I'm not thinking about sort of how I could do things differently. I wouldn't say I picked this up because it was January, but certainly I chose it for that, and that's been on my mind lately.
Wonderful. So, what have you learned from the book?
So he, one of the things that he talks about is his recipe for change, and so there's sort of a formula to it, and it goes like this. I'll explain it to you. I will, whatever the action is right before you are implementing. So I will, for example, get up in the morning, and then I will, and then comes your change. So, and then I will repeat to myself that it's going to be a great day.
Okay.
And then comes the celebrating part. So it's almost like a 3-part. So I will new habit, do the new habit, and then celebrate the new habit. And he uses an example in his book that I love about trying to increase his upper body strength with push-ups. So his was, I will use the washroom. Every time I use the washroom, I will do 3 push-ups and then look in the mirror and sort of celebrate. And it sounds silly, but the idea that you're anchoring that change to something that's happening already in your life is really instrumental in creating that change.
Wow.
And sustaining the change.
Okay.
And one of the things too that I really like that he has found through his work, he's the founder of the Stanford Behavior Lab.
Yeah.
One of the things that he has found is that we increase our ability to take on change and make it successful by starting with little changes. Like that's rewiring happens in our brain so that we're able then to create more change and create more habits, good habits, hopefully.
Yeah. So, have you implemented any of these in your life? Can you give us an example of where you've started to practice tiny habits?
Yes, so most recently, and I guess this is one of my, again, whether you want to call it a resolution, but my January actions, I would like to be better at meditating as like a stress reliever. And it's not something, I have a hard time shutting off my brain, and so it's not something that typically I've been able to do well at in the past. So I find I sit there, my brain keeps going, I get interrupted, things come up, and then I give up. So in this case, my formula for the change is I will get up in the morning, so I do it each morning. I will meditate for 5 minutes, so I keep it short. Hopefully we can grow that, and then I go and I make my coffee. And that's my celebration is then I can sit with my coffee and feel good about making change and
Wonderful.
achieving something for myself.
And how's it going?
Good. So the one thing that I have realized, or I'm trying to be mindful of, is that not all days are equal. So some days are great and I've gone for 10 minutes, and then other days I go for 3 minutes and my mind wanders and I can't seem to pull it back, and that's okay. So I'm practicing sort of not beating myself up for it when it doesn't go well,
Right.
and also not giving up.
So giving yourself some grace.
Yes.
Yes. But persisting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Can I see that?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So, tiny habits. I can imagine that this would be very helpful for things like flossing your teeth, or
Absolutely.
starting a new exercise regime, or doing more reading or more creativity in your life.
Better sleep.
Yes.
Mhm.
Even how you start meetings
Mhm.
as leaders. I can
Absolutely.
imagine if you set an intention for how our meeting's going to go, and what kind of change you want to make to that.
Yeah.
So that's really
Mhm.
exciting. Wow.
Potential.
Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. Thank you very much for introducing us to them and for sharing your own journey with it. I really appreciate that, because it's
Thank you.
helpful to know how it's personally impacted you too.
Great.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.